All right, so Promineo week. I think it's 16 that it got assigned, and it's my final. It's my final project. Um, our job was to create a CRUD application that hooks up to an API. That we can create, read, update, and delete things. If we weren't going to use an API, then we were going to hook it up to like just local storage with an array that's stored. I decided to make it a full stack application using nextjs and actually deploying it on Vercel. I decided that my final project would be my portfolio website. And so that's what you're looking at now. It's built in full Next.js along with trpc for the backend like router, which is really cool. It's built with Tailwind, a little bit of Tailwind UI, actually a lot of Tailwind UI, next auth for authentication, and Prisma for an ROM for mapping data to my Postgres database. It is basically just a blog and projects posting site. It's intended to be able to send to recruiters in the future if I really want to. It has both a dark mode and a light mode, and it's fully mobile responsive. So if I wanted to go here and then move on to that, you'll see that it's fully mobile responsive. It does have several pages like the requirements for the app had. And I have a dashboard built for it for editing the content as well. I went ahead and went ahead and typed up my own like type up for it. This is for an already existing project, just to show updates. So if I go in here, actually, I might have to do it like this. That's strange. Oh, maybe it's a new project. Oh, it is a new project. Haha. Users can type out their content inside of a text editor. It's actually used with TipTap, which is an interesting React implementation of, I think it's Prose. It's some other JavaScript library, but it's a React implementation of it. It lets you essentially edit directly in here different pieces of content. So if I wanted to make this like bold, then I could make it bold. If I wanted to make this one bold, then I could make it bold. There's a couple other things that it does. It lets you write code blocks, paragraphs, block quotes, undo, redo, etc., etc. You can change between all the different ones. I just used it to type this out. That way you didn't have to watch me do it. I just copied something from a README file. One cool thing that I decided to do is I added the ability to add meta content to the web page. That way when I submitted it, would create its own custom title tag. It would create a custom live URL link inside of the page, and it would add a description for it as well. I've already tagged those out here just for ease of demonstration purposes. It is a demonstration of an old project that I did. Users can also add, let me see which one this one is. Yeah, where's this one that I wanted to go with? Oh, it's JPEG that I wanted to use. Users can add images to their projects, and then when they click save, after creating a new one, you'll see it load for a partial period of time, and then you'll see it will have redirected to the edit page with a unique identifier to be able to bring in the data for that project. If you then go back to my website, and I believe it's shift and refresh, there it is. There's my recent project. The photo loads in, as well as the live URL, which should be getting posted. I'll have to figure out why that's not getting added. as well as the content. As you can see, when you click on this, TipTap's really cool. It put a strong tag around the entertainment web app, which is really cool, in my opinion. And it does hard breaks for me, which is really cool as well. And then it wraps pretty much everything inside of a p tag. It moving forward or moving through it. Yeah. Again, light and dark mode. If I wanted to create a new one inside here, I could go to projects. Actually, let's go to blogs. I'll create a blog. I'd want to add show meta content. This is my test title. This is the description for my test blog. Go ahead and click save. This is my totally awesome content. If I wanted to make that a H1 tag, it would do that. Oh, look, TipTap's also got a little bit of this is my totally awesome paragraph. I'm going to add an image. I don't really know what image to use, so I'm just going to use the same one I did before. Click on open, and then we'll click save. That should then redirect me to the blogs of the similar thing. It populates my title as I wanted it to. And then if I go back here and I click on blogs, and I refresh, there it is. Took a while. I think it's because it's statically rendered that the browser caches it, and I have to like more aggressively handle that. I think that might be the issue. I may have to look into, instead of statically rendering it, doing it some other way. But we'll see. That's a project for the future. It's not really falling within the scope of this project. As you can see, it brings in the photo and it added my content like the other one did. Interesting enough, the reason why the project actually took so long was because I think it's under Google Cloud. I forget what it was. Google. Here it is. Yeah. When I actually upload those photos to my server, it will upload to a bucket in my Google console underneath of blogs and projects, and it actually creates images that are public to the internet that I can then use and send over to my blog to use. A user can also download my CV, and they can visit all my things. This is statically rendered, dang it. It's got a really cool effect. There it is. Yeah. I definitely will have to address that, actually, thinking about it. That's all actually done. Whoopsie. Here, so if we go in to the dashboard, let's not look at the dashboard first of all. Let's look at blog. Blog actually uses get static props, which does a fetch from my Prisma client to find find quite a few of the blogs. This is on the blog page, right? Where the status is set as published on side of my blog schema. It has a status with a string of published or unpublished. That's for a future feature, but it basically checks my database, says, hey, if a blog has a published status, then give it to me, and I want you to order it by descending order of created at, because created at is a date timestamp for the project. And then it will this is the problem with that's funny. This is actually the issue with copying and pasting, because I did the project one first and then I mapped it out. So this says project, but it's actually blog. Anyways, this essentially takes in those blogs. I want to, and I found out that when you return something, you can't return a date object in this, so you have to actually format it correctly. So I convert, because this created as actually a date object, as you can see. I convert it to an ISO string, and then return it to props. If it gets an error, I log the error and then I return nothing. But it takes in those props here on the blog page itself, right? And then it, using a transition element from headless UI, creates blog cards, which I pass to a blog card component. If there aren't any blog card, I render an error. And if there are, I map over them and I create a card with an image in it. Each blog has an image, and then a link to each individual blog's post, which is an ID that's tied to it. Each blog has to have a description, so I map out that description. And each blog has a title that I add into that description as well. If we look at the index, the same thing's actually done with the projects. It's very similar. I could probably actually make a component out of this, like just a singular component, but I haven't really looked into that just yet. Actually, I probably could totally just map it, or just make these into the similar component, because they basically are the same thing. You can see it does the exact same thing, grabs the projects from the database, maps out the date string, sends them back as props that gets passed to the page component that I then map out into project cards. If I want, this is funny, I'll have to show you that here in a second. If I am looking at the dashboard now, dashboard will, if I wanted to, this is all navigation in Next is done via the directory and not via the router itself, which is why I like it a lot more than React Router. But you can similarly map out like ID and params. Just you use the directories that are actually in the project to do so. So this takes me to the dashboard directory, and inside that dashboard directory there's an index, right? And then there is two more directories for blogs and projects, right? The index right now only checks to basically it checks to see what my user email is, and it maps it out. So if you wanted to see that, if we go to the dashboard and I go to dashboard, it maps out my email address. I wanted to test to see if React Query was up, and I didn't do that as well. React Query being this thing, it's wrapped with trpc for type safety, but it basically it allows you to do things like check loading state, check whether or not it's fetching. It allows you to invalidate fetches and refetch automatically. It's just a good like management of like server state for your applications. I highly recommend checking it out. Inside of the dashboard, there's a blogs directory. It's very similar to the projects directory. I'll go over projects directory just because it makes more sense, because it's got a little bit more complex in that it has the live URL, and I need to look at that anyways. When you create a new project, you actually we'll take a look here. I'm going to minimize a lot of this code. Excuse me. Each new page comes with a content editor and then a meta dialog. That it's just two components. Meta dialog is a component that I created that is essentially this pop-up when you go to edit a project. Update metadata is inside of there. See, so if I click on this, this data is stored to this app, right? That's just a component that I created. If you create a new project, that same component is there, except it has a live site URL that you're supposed to save to it as well. That is a headless UI component. I believe it is. I believe it's either popover. I think it might be dialog, because if you click off of it, it's headless UI dialog modal. It automatically handles that state. It lets you click off, do actions like that let you fade out and stuff like that, which is really cool. I'm also able to delete. Actually, let me. Anyways, it's a content editor, which takes in two states: posting a project and a posting a photo, a handle save function, and then this is actually this content editor actually handles both new content and currently existing content. It takes in content that might be mapped to it via the router, and maps out, and it takes in a couple of optional parameters as well that basically tell it to behave if it has the image add function onto it. We can take a look at it really quickly. Image add, let's see, where is it? Image add, content, asset title, and show meta. All of these are optional parameters that are on it that you can pass to it, and if it has them, it knows to essentially add specific features to it. So for example, in the case of the image add, if it has image add, it knows to map a special button to the editor that allows you to add an image to whatever content you're creating right there, right? But if I go to projects and I go to edit this project, you'll see that it's not there, and it's because I only want one photo tied to each project, and that's something like this, right? That's just so I don't keep overwriting photos and I don't start hitting my Google API too much. Speaking of the Google API, when a user has uploaded a photo, when they click the save button, or added a photo button, it will, where are you? This is actually some janky stuff. So if it has the image add button, right? I look and see if there's an element inside of the page. Element dot, some basic JavaScript. Element dot get element by ID. Image input, right? And the image input is all the way down here at the bottom underneath of this. That is rendered conditionally. So if it has image add, then it gets put in. If it isn't, then I'm not rendering it to the page so that you can't trick it. But it itself has an event handler. If we go to that event handler up here, it takes in a React change event, and what it does is if there isn't an image add function, it returns. It just doesn't. Like if it doesn't exist, then I don't care. I don't want the function to continue. These are just a couple of checks here. Like I don't want to continue if I'm not getting the right data. But if it does get the right data, then I pass it. And I have to do this for TypeScript, otherwise I'll get like any errors essentially. But the image add function for this actually takes in a file. It base 64s it, and then I have to find it. It's up higher, I do believe. Yeah, it's up higher. So if I go to, I think I have it on the actual page. I believe it's under new. Where is it? Yeah. So it actually goodness gracious. So it actually converts the file to base 64 because for some reason I couldn't figure out how to upload a photo into trpc. It just was not friendly. So it actually takes in the image, creates a new instance of a file reader, passes that file to the file reader, and tells it to read it as a data URL, which returns a string that kind of looks like actually I might be able to maybe let me see. How do I want to do this? Because basically this function returns a promise that when resolved gives you reader, like the result of the reader as a string, and it basically what you've done is you've now converted that photo into a string, and you can pass that string in like JSON pretty happily, which is kind of funny. That was a trick my senior engineer told me about, because I was struggling with this particular part for a while. It's actually the reason I had to ask for an extension. But this is just some kind of like janky JavaScript to get it to work. But basically it returns that function, and then the user should be able to click save at that stage, which saving is first it checks to see if an image exists. If it doesn't, then I say, hey, I returned from the function earlier, and I console log no image selected. If there isn't any metadata that's saved for the image as well, I actually set the meta editor to true, like I want to see it essentially. And then down here I will here it is actually. This is where I convert it to a base 64. So I'll get either undefined or string back from this, because the promise can, when it rejects, returns null, right? So where is it? Not null, but undefined. It like doesn't return anything. Reject error, right? And if it gets rejected, then it's undefined. So the photo ID can be either undefined or a string. I then test to make sure that it's a string. Thank you, TypeScript, for letting me aware of that. Then I send that off to a request to my own server to process or post that photo to my React or to my endpoint, right? This is actually just an Axios handler. It's an Axios handler that's actually it's passed into a React query client. So I use a mutation on it so that way I can get access to like the loading state, and as well as like the mutate async, which is like call this function and then keep track of it with the React query. But the Axios handler should be right here. And what the Axios handler does is it takes in, a file as well as a location, and it stringifies it, and it passes it to a Axios handler as a part of the body, telling, hey, you're going to be getting JSON. And then the response that I get back from it is data. You can destructure it off of data. Like if I wanted to, I could just be like here, I could just do this data and then return data like that if I really wanted to. I just didn't in the end, and I don't feel like editing this at the moment. But what that does is it actually sends it over to my API here, which for Next is actually underneath of the API directory. Underneath for me, it's the photos directory and the index inside of that. And what this does is it uses the GCS library to upload it to my server, which is really cool. Photos. What it does is it takes in. First it checks to see if you're allowed, which if you're not, it tells you, hey, you're not allowed, you're not an authorized user, so sorry, you're not uploading anything to my server. But then it gets the photo data off of the body as well as the location. If there isn't a photo data and a location off the body, and the photo data is not the type of string, and location is not type of string, then I return a 400 error saying, hey, bad request, missing parameters. I then create a unique ID for the photo, and then I pass that to a handler of upload to Google Cloud. And what that does is it replaces the base 64 to, like, there's a little thing inside of a base 64 that will break this. So I have to strip that little data URL out. I create a buffer from that base 64, and I write that to a temporary file inside of a temporary directory on my server. And then I feed that into a storage bucket for the Google Cloud, and then I upload it to that bucket. given with the destination name of the location / file name. So in the case of projects, right, it would send it to my projects bucket. Or sorry, it sends it to this bucket, then it sends it to projects and images, and right there it is. There's one right there. It will do that happily. And the same thing for the delete. So if I wanted to, actually, if I went in here, right, let's go to here and let's see, open image in new tab. You should be able to see, yeah, see that little ID there? That's that UUID 3003 yada 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 .webp. That's probably optimized because of nextjs, but this, if I go in here and I go to blogs, right there it is, 3030003. Yeah, there it is. Publicly accessed to the internet. One other cool thing about this, right? If I don't like this blog anymore, this is the delete aspect of it. You can click delete on that function. It'll run through it, check it, reload. As you can see, it's not loading. I need to go away from here. I need to refresh this page. Refresh again. Why are you not? There we go. Okay. I've got to work on that caching error. So that's been deleted. And then if I go over actually into that really cool little Google Cloud Console, it should have, yeah, deleted the object from there as well. And that's actually handled with a very similar function that basically just takes in the file name and says, hey, here's the file name of the object that I want you to delete. Delete that for me, please. And that is done from here using this delete function. It basically takes in the ID of the project and then runs, I say destroy, but it's basically it goes to a delete project handler on my server that gets that Prisma ID and then just deletes it. And then I believe it also deletes the file too. Where are you? How do I delete this exactly? I think it's like delete from Google. There it is. Yeah, where are you? There she be. Yeah, so in blog it does that. It grabs handle delete from Google Cloud and it grabs that data image and it deletes it. Which actually, now that I think about it, I think that needs to be implemented here. Haha, there we go. Okay. But that's easy enough, actually. I can do... I don't want to delete a project, but actually I can just show you the whole process. This actually will... I can probably just grab this, right? And we'll go over to projects. We'll go here. I need to import this. Yeah, that's correct. I need you to go into projects. And then I need you, I believe it's in images / that. And then return deleted file. Yeah, that should be good. And then what needs to be updated? Yeah, that'll do the same thing in that case, or it should, hopefully. Yeah, so that should be the project. That's create, read, update, and delete from the server. If you wanted to see it all run, I don't know if my local host has the correct environments anymore. You're not going to be able to use the dashboard, unfortunately, because it's locked to mine, but hopefully that was a long enough explanation of how the code works. If you need any more, feel free to check out the repository. It's public at the moment. I very much so intend to make it private moving forward. So once I get my grade back, it will be going to private. All right. Thank you very much.